welcome to part 2 of this Master Investor podcast focused on investing in longevity and the science of anti-aging. Our second guest today is Phil Newman. Phil is the founder of First Longevity Limited, and First Longevity owns longevity news platform the longevity news platform longevity.technology and crowdfunding platform Crowd Longevity. Phil, just give us an introduction to yourself, your background. What was it that brought you into the longevity space?
Hi, James. Well, my background is in sales and marketing. So I've been a tech and medtech sales and marketing executive, consultant, person for the last 25 years of my life. And I've been looking at what has been going on in the healthcare sector and thought there's an opportunity to get into something new. So I'm sure we'll talk about the longevity space later, but my background is really looking at markets, new markets, how markets can come to life. And my original training as a creative designer, which is a long time ago now, really put me in good stead for understanding how to read patterns and to see how processes work. And I found that actually that creative skill has given me a lot of support as I've gone through working with companies, entering new markets, understanding how to break down those barriers and how to commercialize new products and services.
Right, and what was, give us a flavour of your journey into this space, and what was it that first sparked the interest, and then also just move on to sort of talk about how, what was the inception of First Longevity? What was the idea behind that?
Well, it's quite interesting. Back in the sort of mid-2000s, I was very involved in medtech, and I got involved in a company that was in the bionics sector, which was thoroughly fascinating. That was all about helping people who are amputees, soldiers, people who had got other health complications through loss of limb, and understanding how neural signals work and interact with the body was really a great leverage for me into what we do today as a business. Spent a bit of time working in machine vision as well, which was all about 3D scanning, and we were spending a lot of time working in the fields of medtech as well for precision medicine and advanced cosmetics. And all of those things were going on in my own life. Well, at the same time, there was this fintech revolution going on, and I was watching what was happening in fintech. Thoroughly interested in seeing how, were the banks going to be able to provide licenses to these disruptors? Was this going to be a market that was going to take off? And obviously crypto came in as well in that same period. And I was watching on the sidelines, and I was thinking all through this, thinking, wow, I really should have been in this game, but I wasn't. And really looking for what might be the next disruptive market to move into. And it actually happened on a train journey between Oslo and Trondheim. I was doing a 24-hour bike ride back the other direction.
All right.
And I was reading an NFT article, and I read about this guy called Jim Mellon who'd put some money into a business called Juvenescence. And it just resonated with me. I thought, that really triggered some neurons. And I was looking at what they were doing as a business. And obviously I read Jim's book. And really all of those things led me towards understanding that the longevity space is very complicated. There are a lot of ways in which people are interpreting the longevity space. And I decided that I'd actually use some of my own skills to look at the space, form my own understanding of it, and my own understanding of the dynamics of that space. And originally my plan was to put on an event, as you do. I thought, well, I'll put on an event to get everybody in one room and charge, a few grand a ticket, etc. That idea didn't last very long. And I realized that actually what I needed to do was spend much more time on it. So I hired a couple of journalists and a researcher, and we worked in stealth mode over 6 months, really simulating running a publication on longevity. So when we got to the point when we were ready to launch, which was just over a year ago in September last year, we'd already got a lot of backstory in place. We'd met a lot of people in the marketplace all ahead of our launch. So we hit the ground running. And since that point in time, we've grown very fast, and it's been a great journey so far.
So yeah, the stars aligned then for you in longevity, and it does seem that you've got some heavy hitters on board as well. Just looking at the advisory panel, you've got obviously our very own Jim Mellon on there, Aubrey de Grey, who's one of the foremost figures in this space, Greg Bailey. So how did you persuade those people to come on board, and just give us a bit of a flavor as to what it was that attracted those heavy hitters in the first place.
Well, I think that we built a brand very quickly, and we were very consistent. I wanted to be pushing out daily news. Sometimes we've struggled in the past to get daily news on the field of longevity, but I think that really we created a brand very quickly. And in doing so, we were able to give people access to the marketplace in a shorter period of time. So we're not a scientific publication. We haven't got peer review. We're just looking at the news that's going on in the marketplace. We're obviously looking at the scientific agenda as well, but also looking at the market in terms of the investment potential and the investor activity. So I think that we represent a different category of publication. We're a hybrid of really how commerce and investment and science comes together in the field of longevity. So with these individuals that became part of our advisory panel, it really wasn't actually a big ask. We didn't have to beg and borrow their attention. They've seen what we've been doing. We've interviewed them all respectively on their own businesses and their own projects. And when we asked them if they'd be interested in supporting us with our advisory panel, they all came on and said yes. Nobody actually said no, which was great. So they're a great team, and really we haven't leveraged them sufficiently yet. But now we're moving into this sphere where we're going from the publication into the crowdfunding model. They're going to become very useful to us in terms of due diligence and sites on the marketplace and so forth.
Yeah. Just give us an idea of the investment opportunity with longevity, because I saw on your website there was something mentioning that the space could be worth 26 trillion by the year 2026, which, I mean, that's a huge sum, isn't it? It's bigger than the US economy. So how do we get from where we are now to that?
Well, quite. It is a big number, and there are some more conservative numbers, but they've all got plenty of zeros associated with them. Dmitry Kamenetsky and Margareta Colangelo, who are both from Longevity Capital and who are both also on our advisory panel, they've just written a book actually called Longevity Industry 1.0, and that figure comes from their book. And what they've done basically is they've taken a figure of 20% of global GDP as a marker for the longevity sector, which is very broad brush. And obviously it reflects the fact that the longevity industry is not just about healthcare, it's about retirement plans, it's about retirement homes, it's about insurance and all of those types of things. So they've wrapped all of that into the field of longevity. Financial services is something that intrigues me about that play of longevity and finance together, but we stay away from that from a market perspective. We're only interested in investment into the tech within the sector. But Bank of America themselves, they reckon that the marketplace will be $500 billion by 2025, which is a big step away from the 26 trillion. But at the end of the day, I think it demonstrates that people are still trying to articulate what the parameters of the markets are, what is longevity and what is not longevity, and taking their own interpretations out of that. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that the market is still very young.
And what is the specific opportunity with First Longevity? Just give us an overview of your activities of late and the fundraising.
Well, glad to say that Jim is one of the high-profile investors that we've got within our cohort. So we have just closed soft closed the second part of our round. So we have an EIS advanced assurance process in place now. So we have advanced assurance for investments, and we're looking to secure our last 105K on this particular round to close off our seed round. And then we're going to go in the tunnel and then start applying that capital to really two business plans that we have. We have, obviously, as I mentioned before, the media plan. So we've got the longevity technology website, which we're going to be migrating that quickly now into becoming a very specialist hub for longevity insights from both a financial perspective and from a scientific perspective. So a little bit like Bowhurst and Crunchbase in terms of those being really good resources for investors. We're looking to do that at a much more micro level into some of the specific technologies and therapies associated with the longevity market. So we'll be doing that. And then, as you mentioned nicely, at the beginning, we've got Crowd Longevity, which is going to be our equity crowdfunding model. We have found really that there is a lot of interest in both the private investor community and the high net worth community in longevity. I think that's partly driven by the demographic of those individuals. They're normally at a mid-life point. They're interested in their own health. They're interested in understanding how they can enjoy their wealth for as long as possible. And as you may have noticed, there are also a number of venture capital funds that have started to pop up. There are probably still only 10 really dedicated and serious longevity VC funds. There are more coming on board. But what we found really is that bringing together the model of having a cohort of, let's call them professional investors from the VC community with private investors, fed by the deal flow that we have, driven really in many respects from the media title. We get lots of insights to very interesting tech that's coming to market, bringing all of that together within our digital platform to form a company that can then support early stage, really seed to Series A stage companies with their funding journey. And we plan to launch that within 3 months.
And it's really exciting for private investors because they're actually getting in on something at ground zero, aren't they? So, they're going to enjoy the sort of ride right from the very beginning. What sort of advice can you give to investors who might be looking at this space and might want to sort of dip the toe in? What should they be looking for, do you think?
Well, there are some interesting categories at the moment that are, well, it's your appetite for risk, isn't it, as with all investing. So there are companies in the longevity space that would classify as pure biotech, and biotech businesses do take time to get to market. Obviously, they have a lot of stages through their clinical pipeline where there can be erosions of their success as they go through that. But likewise, there are some interesting sectors within the space already that are active. So we've seen a lot of work recently in the supplements market. So these are supplements that are actually dedicated to life extension. So there are NAD plus supplements and NMN and NMR. These are all supplements that people are able to bring to market much quicker because they have components which are called GRAS, which is generally recognized as safe. So I think the supplements market is growing very significantly. And I was actually presenting at a conference last week, and I held up all of the supplements that were at the back of my cupboard that I've stopped taking. And the reason I stopped taking those is because I actually have no idea whether they're doing me any good or not. So
Pretty good reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like anything, is that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And really, we feel that there's a big opportunity now in the space of biomarkers. We're seeing a lot of biomarker technologies coming online. So you can get tests for DNA methylation, which will tell you what your metabolic age is as opposed to your chronological age. And obviously, if it's in the right direction, you know that what you're doing is well. And obviously that includes diet and exercise. I mean, there's no running away from it. There's not going to be a poly pill for longevity anytime soon for a very long time. But really the supplements market supported by the biomarkers market is very exciting. And then of course, you've got the apps that are supporting people through understanding whether the interventions that they're taking are helping them. So to give you an example, I have dementia in my family. My father died of it, and it's on my mother's side as well. So I'm really keen to understand what I can do now at 53 years of age to understand what I can do to mitigate that downstream. But of course, it's going to be a bit late by the time I hit 80 and I realize that I've been taking the wrong supplements. So this is the type of market opportunity that we're seeing now, that people have got interventions. There are ways of measuring those interventions. And then, of course, tracking those interventions, as we all are relatively lazy as human beings. You need apps and devices that will just do that for you and basically give you daily advice on what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. And this sort of backs into kind of what the biohacker community is, which has got a bit of a bad name in the field of longevity. Biohacking is not putting implants into your body and injecting yourself with stem cells. It's actually tracking a lot of the activities that you do to improve your sleep, to improve your exercise, to improve your general health and well-being. And in many respects, this is what I see as being the key focus for what we'll be working on with our funding activity in the first cohort that we work with these startup businesses and our partner investors.
So just picking up on that, I've asked Jim this question, so I'm going to ask you as well. Is there anything that people might not be doing now, excluding the obvious ones of, plenty of exercise and a good diet, something that people could easily implement right now that would give them a much better chance of living into old age and being able to enjoy the fruits of their investments?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that diet and exercise is fundamentally a big part of it. And what sort of diet you have and what sort of exercise that you have is very important. So to tell you what I'm doing personally, I have decided that I need to look at my microbiome. I need to understand what's going on with the fuel that I'm putting in my body to understand whether that's doing me any good or not. So I've actually spent a lot of time personally in microbiome. So there are tests to understand what's going on with your gut health, and there are diets that can help you understand whether that's first of all to address any issues you've got with your gut health, and then regular testing to understand whether that's working for you or not. So I think that's really important. The type of exercise that you do as well is very important. Again, on a personal basis, I have over-exercised. Candidly, I've put myself into a pretty difficult position by actually over-exercising, and I think that I wasn't really tracking that. So that's another thing that backs into both the diet and the exercise thing, which I would suggest are actually really important aspects of longevity. And then in many respects, the supplements market is right there now. NAD Plus seems to be one of the key supplements at this stage that has got proven longevity capacity. There are some people that will still have opinions against that, but that's the nature of the space at the moment. But I'm actively going to start looking at NAD Plus supplementation and also supplementation with omega-3 to support me with my potential downstream issues associated with dementia.
Great. And just tell us a bit about the events that are coming up in future, because you're going to be out and about, aren't you, in November? Longevity Week.
Yeah, Longevity Week is going to be very exciting, and I think like everything, it's going to be transitioning into a digital sphere, which I think is a really positive thing because it gives people the ability to cherry pick what they're going to do. They don't have to get up to London for a day and spend all day listening to stuff that they don't necessarily wish to listen to. So I think that the advent of digital events is really exciting. And having had a look at the agenda, they've got some great stuff scheduled for the week, which builds on the great work from last year's event, which was very much my first engagement with some of those people in the marketplace. And yes, there are two sessions which I believe I'm going to be involved with, which are both from the longevity investment side and the longevity science side, and very excited about those. And there's some great speakers coming up as well. So that's really exciting. And we ourselves are going to be doing an event later in the year focusing on neurotech, which is tangentially involved with the longevity space. A lot of work going on with neuroceuticals and so on. So that's one that we're going to be involved with as well.
Excellent. So we'll all be looking out for those. It's just an absolutely amazing space to sort of get involved with at the moment. And I think, especially for from an investor's point of view, getting into something at ground zero like this, and watching it develop, the opportunities there are just immense, aren't they? And you've got the added benefit of it, being a social good as well. So so something to keep an eye on. And thanks for your time today, Phil. I'm sure we'll be following your progress very keenly.
Great. Well, good to meet you, James, and very best of luck with your other interviews today.
Thank you very much.